Welcome to FryEye. We hope you had a great day. Let's jump right into the news. The first story is LinkedIn hits 1 billion members, which is crazy to think about. I mean, the United States has close to 400 million citizens, and LinkedIn has 1 billion members, which is insane. What LinkedIn is doing to mark that 1 billion user mark is they're adding some new tools, and specifically AI tools. So for example, members that pay the $40 a month tier will get a new AI features that can tell a user who may be plowing through dozens of job postings whether they're a good candidate based on the information in their profile. It's like a tool that will give the user feedback if their resume matches the actual job posting, and if it doesn't match the job posting, the AI will give them recommendations on what to put in their resume to help, secure that job if they want to interview for it. So that's pretty cool. LinkedIn can also recommend profile changes to make the user more competitive for a job. So it's about their resume and their profile, and this will be a huge help to job seekers out there. Now, it raises a question though, if you're an employer, like how does that work? How do you know you're getting the real person for the job? You're gonna look at all these resumes, see someone phenomenal for the job, and maybe that's because LinkedIn coached them on what to put in their resume, and is that accurate or not? We're gonna see. It's gonna be interesting to see how that works out. There'll probably be some kind of counter tool to the AI that helps job seekers, right? There'll be a counter tool to sort of weed through all this fluff that's gonna be added to these resumes, because you might sit down, go through these resumes and think, man, all these candidates are amazing. So you need an AI tool to combat that. It doesn't exist as far as I know, but I could see that happening. Another tool LinkedIn announced on Wednesday is a button that will summarize long posts into a few key bullet points tailored to each user. So instead of reading like a really long article on LinkedIn, you can just hit a button and it will know your personality, your background, what your job is, your experience, and it will tailor a summary based on those things, which is really neat because a lot of times people don't have time to read through super long articles. So that's that for LinkedIn. Let's get into the next story. This is an interesting one. It talks about how employees are getting fired by their employers because they're being accused of using ChatGPT to create content for their employers. So this is more for writers and marketers and things like that, content creators. And in this example, the writer Michael Barden, it's just a generic name because he doesn't want to use his name in real life. He goes on to say how he was fired one day. Like right here, Michael's main client informed him that they had started to use an AI detector, and the results were supposedly damning for him. His most recent articles flagged a 95% likelihood of being AI generated. His client didn't like that, obviously, so they actually went through his past posts and found that 65 to 95% of his older content was flagged as AI generated as well. Now, the interesting thing about this is they went back to his articles before ChatGPT even existed, and those articles were still flagged as being created by AI. So after all that happened, Michael tried to do whatever he could to prove his articles were not generated by AI. He even gave his client access to the full Google Docs history and showed them his writing process in progress, all edits included. But the seed of doubt that the AI detector had sowed was too strong. Michael lost his main client, and with it, most of his income. So it's like, what do they say? Perception is reality. So if the perception is that a writer or content creator created something via AI, even though he didn't, the perception sort of wins out, and it's unfortunate. And no matter what this guy did, he still was let go from his job. That begs the question, what's the accuracy of these AI detectors? Like a lot of students out there for writing essays for colleges and things like that, I'm sure professors are putting all their essays through these detectors, but are they really accurate? And if you go on some of these AI detector websites, they'll say we're 99% accurate, 99.9% accurate, 98% accurate, but how the heck are they getting that data? I mean, they're just sort of pulling that out of thin air, especially if one of these tools flags something that's really not written by generative AI. And that happens a lot. One of the things that happens is that these tools that flag things as written by AI, if you have a similar style to ChatGPT in your writing, well, it's going to flag it. How do you combat against that? And it's kind of sad because this guy's saying that he wanted to prove that he didn't do it, which he did by providing all those documents. But that takes a lot of time. Like say if you got accused as a student for plagiarizing with ChatGPT, you have to go through the lengths of proving that you didn't. Why should you have to do that? It's sort of not fair for the student. So it goes both ways. And to add to that, Michael was desperate and he even reached out to the company providing the AI test. So he wanted to reach out to them and say, hey, can you go over my work and prove that AI did not write this for me because it didn't? And that didn't get him anywhere. Basically, the long end of the story, he was let go and he couldn't do anything about it. So on the other side of things, for the client's point of view, they were terrified terrified of Google downranking them because this guy was using supposedly ChatGPT to write his articles for them. And, I sort of don't blame them either because Google could be using the same test. So it goes both ways. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And with anything in AI, it's probably going to come down to lawsuits. So the next thing this Michael guy, Michael in quotes, might do is go and sue these companies that flagged his work because he lost his job and his livelihood. So we'll see how it plays out, but that's that story. For the final story tonight, we're going to talk about the cybersecurity expert. He's saying we're focusing on the wrong things in terms of cybersecurity and AI, and he's got some opinions on what we should be focused on. So he's going to do a multi-part series in his blog here, but we're going to do part 1 of what he talks about, and I think it's important and relevant. Basically, he's saying that one of the things that nobody's focusing on, or not enough at least, is that AI is going to be able to automate translations. So it will be able to automate, right now, if I was talking, I can translate it into something else. It can translate it into anything you want, so from English to German to French to Spanish, whatever language you want, and it sounds really good. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference if I was speaking in my native tongue or not. You might ask, what's the big deal about that? Like, why is that a security threat? He goes on to say that it's a security threat for phishing in particular. For example, you hear these stories about how scammers call senior citizens and ask for money out of their bank account, and they pretend that it's their grandson or grandchild that's on the phone, and they convince their grandparents to transfer money out of their account, that type of stuff. Imagine if you got a call, or some senior citizen got a call, and they hear their grandson or granddaughter on the other line, and it sounds like them, and they say they're in trouble, they're kidnapped, or they need money because they're in an emergency. Like, the older generation, a lot of them will just wire the money, no questions asked. So that kind of stuff is going to really start to take effect. I know we talked about translation and going from English to German, but it's also in terms of deep faking someone's voice. Speaking of deep fakes, you might wonder what happened to my beard, right? I created a deep fake software for this video to cover up my beard so you can't see it anymore. And it just shows you the power of AI. No, I did not do that. Just kidding. We had some technical difficulties, but it can be done. And we'll get into a deepfake video and tool evaluation sometime soon here. But anyways, back to the main story. Terrible joke, but who cares? Another thing that can be done is you get these emails nowadays that if they don't filter through your spam folder, they'll ask you for money, but you can tell they're spam right away because they're written terribly. They're probably some guy in Africa that's writing it in some internet cafe, and he's got terrible English. Yeah, I'm gonna send you all my money. Okay, buddy. But now the technology for AI is going to be so good that these scammers are going to sound like real people, and you might open it up and think it's like someone from your bank or something, and you might give them a call back. Unbeknownst to you, it's some scammer that's going to tell you to wire him money, and you might do it. So it's going to get trickier and trickier with AI. Hopefully there'll be tools to counteract all this stuff, but just keep your eye out for it because it's going to be a big problem down the road. You're going to hear more and more about it. So I'm going to get into a little example of what the translation this guy's talking about.
A menudo me preguntan, ¿qué es lo más
So
importante
this
que
part
debo
right
enseñar a
here
mis empleados
is
en
him
materia de
speaking,
ciberseguridad?
but being
Y la respuesta es
translated
bastante
on the
sencilla.
fly
Il faut
to
leur
a
apprendre qu'il
different
existe un
language.
risque réel pour
And as you can
pour
see,
leurs
it's
données,
pretty dang
pour
good.
l'entreprise.
All right, so that's the translated version. This is the original, and you'll see how good it is here.
I am frequently asked, what is the most important thing to teach your employees about cybersecurity?
Very cool. And another thing that this will help with, not in terms of scamming people, but if you're doing YouTube videos or any kind of videos, you can translate them on the fly and really open up your audience. So cool tool in that aspect. And for the tool tonight, something that you probably might have heard before because it's a very hot tool. It's been talked about on Twitter and a lot of social media outlets, is Pinocchio. This is a tool that makes installing open source projects or projects that are hard to install on your computer very easy to install. So they're more tools that are meant for developers that you have to go in and open up your terminal like this and type in weird code if you're not familiar with coding or programming, and makes it very hard for the everyday user to install. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why would I want to even install one of these tools? The reason is because most of the cool and up and coming AI tools out there start off as a developer tool and something that's not too easy to install. So you can stay cutting edge by using this Pinocchio tool without knowing how to code. You install these things in literally one click. So for example, here's some of them right here. This XTTS. Actually, we interviewed them for our podcast. It's Koki. They do text to voice. So that's a cool tool. You can install it locally here really easily. And like some other ones that are popular are Illusion Diffusion, Barking Clone, Focus, all these up and coming tools. Now, I sort of advise against installing this, to be honest, and I'll give you an alternative way of doing this in a little bit, because you have to install software on your computer, and there's not much known about this company, Pinocchio. And anytime you download some software on your computer, it can access your files, do nefarious things to your computer. I would say hold off on installing this until it gets a little bit more popular and vetted, because we don't really know exactly who's behind this. And you don't want to install anything on your computer that could cause harm, obviously. It is not a web app like a lot of the tools out there. And again, I just want to reiterate this. You have to install something on your computer to use it. So an alternative to that is to use Hugging Face. And Hugging Face is a platform, if you're familiar with GitHub, it's like the GitHub for AI. So basically AI projects are hosted on this site, and you can also use them too. So there's Hugging Face Spaces, and this is where you can go and find a bunch of different demos to use that actually work really well. We're talking about Stable Diffusion, and that one is on here. So that's that same spiral image generation tool. So you just upload your photo here and create what kind of illusion you want down here, and it will blend that into your image. It's a very cool tool. So that's one example. But a lot of the tools you find on Pinocchio can also be found on Hugging Face. So all you have to do is go to Hugging Face /spaces, scroll down to the trending list. That's what I would suggest. And you can do pretty much anything you can on Pinocchio here. Now, the downside to using Hugging Face is that some of these tools are so popular that you have to wait a long time for the image generation to happen. So if illusion diffusion, a lot of users are using that at any particular time, it might take a minute or two for the actual tool to display your illusion image. So just keep that in mind. That's it for tonight. As always, we appreciate every single person that's viewing. Again, our goal is to make this better each and every night. Please subscribe to this channel and also subscribe to our email newsletter at fry-ai.com/subscribe. We've got 3 new tools every day there and 3 trending stories there every single weekday, and a long form article on Sunday as well. We'll see you tomorrow, but have a great rest of the night. This is Ryan signing out. Take care.